Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Crimi-Trent. Today we're going to tiptoe through the tulips. I'm going to teach you how to draw and paint realistic tulips very easily. A beginner can totally do this. I go over it step by step, but if you're a Patreon member, you can download the traceable and a bonus traceable that goes along with it. If you're not a Patreon member, hit that little button up here and it goes to that and explains what it's all about. It's a place where people can go and support my channel, and I give exclusive tutorials there weekly on Thursdays. Traceables that go with my YouTube, and some other bonus content. So yeah, it's just a nice place for people to support me for what I do on YouTube. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section, and let's get started. Okay, so let's start by going over how to draw tulips. I'm just going to move my paper out of the way here and get started. So if you're a Patreon member, like I said, the sketch is there for you to download. There's also a bonus sketch that you could use, which is it's the tulips in a jar, and you can just paint the jar whatever way you want. You know, you can make it like a chinoiserie vase or multicolored vase. It's just like another little, and basically it's the same tulips that are in the sketch, but I've added the jar. So just another thing you can try and think about. But for here on YouTube, I can basically show you how to draw a tulip. Think of, like, you know, oblong shapes and the letter U, and this is how you kind of basically draw a tulip. So you basically like the letter U, right? And this open one that I have here, I'm just going to kind of take the top of that and kind of wiggle down and connect it, wiggle down and connect it. And then the middle one, just like a little bump here and a little bump here in the back and here. And then you add the curved stem. And the leaves are pretty simple. They're kind of like always pointy. They kind of go like this, you know, and they can kind of go like this. And then we have another one that's kind of closed up more. So that's like kind of like a teardrop, a little bit more rounder like that. And then we're going to grab a little piece like that next to it. And then in the back, and there's your other tulip. Again, with a curved stem. And this one you can have a bent leaf. See, wiggle around. And then you can have a nice long one next to it. I just kind of keep doing that, like around. Again, you can do the U one here, and you can kind of, like, if that's easier, you can do where you're coming down this way, and you're coming down this way, and you're wiggling here and here. And that's another way to make a tulip, right? And again, this oblong shape, and you just do one out here and out here, and that's the middle part in here. And you're doing a curve, and you just make these leaves that go like this. That's kind of how you draw a tulip. It's, you know, again, just think of it in shapes and letters. I tell people letters too, because that helps also. You know, you can do, again, with this oblong shape, add the little side petal with a wiggle on top. What I mean by wiggle is just like it's like a wiggly W or an M in here. And then you have another one. But you can also do it this way. There's many ways you can do it. And you can just paint it out. I can show you how to paint it out too. I'll explain that in a minute. And you just do this pointy leaves. That's kind of it. There's also kinds of like different kind of tulips. There's parrot tulips that are really kind of funky. They look like wiggly like this. You know? They're kind of funky like that. We're going to do your basic kind of tulip. So yeah, I showed you how to draw it, and then you can add embellishments too. You can always add like a little butterfly. You know, I have a tutorial on butterflies. They're like on the Mini Monday Madness. I'll put the link in the profile. I mean, excuse me, in the description box. So if you wanted to put a little butterfly like next to one of the little tulips, even though really technically butterflies don't really come around tulips, around where I am, but maybe where other people live, you know, you can do that. So that's the sketch. So I'm going to take out the sketch I put on the paper here, and I'm using Arches 100% cotton cold pressed paper. I'm just filling up this whole 9x12 piece of paper. You could cut it down to size whatever size you want, an 8 by 10 that could easily fit into a frame. They sell 9 by 12 frames too, though. A lot of stores online and whatnot. I just think it's easier to show this whole piece here. And if you can't see it, let me just make sure you can see it. Yes, you can see it. Okay, I always do this and make sure, because sometimes my videos get cut off. The palette, I'm going to go over the paints as I use them. I'll be working with, you know, different brushes. I have my Grumbacher, which is nice. It's more of a rounded tip. I love using my Princeton 8. And I don't think I'll be using the 4 today. I might. And then the Princeton 8. I have this other one here. But most of these two. And I'm going to be doing pink tulips. I have another tulip tutorial that's pinks also. But I'm going to show you kind of getting a little more realistic look to these tulips. That's pretty easy. So these are penciled in. You know, you can keep the pencil look if you want. If you want to go in and erase some of it so you don't see much of it, I have this kneaded eraser. I love using kneaded erasers. It doesn't have all those little, you know, little sheddings that you have to kind of go like this and they get all over the place. That's what's great about this thing. I think I have a link for this in my description box. They're pretty cheap. You can get them in any store. So I kind of erased most of it. So, very simple. Kind of realistic looking. I'm going to grab, and I have water jars, of course. I have like bright rose and magenta over here. Going to mix up some of the rose and magenta mixed together. And it's still very bright. It's also good to have a nice piece of scrap by. And you can see how bright the color is. Now, I don't want it this intense pink. So I'm going to add a touch of yellow. I have cadmium yellow deep. And you add a touch of it, it goes a little more on the blush tone side. And you can keep adding a little more pink if you want to get it out of the blush tone, but back into more of like a reddish pink. And if you want to go back in and add more pink, just add that rose again. And it changes it ever so much, right? So, what we're going to do, start with this one right here. I'm going to zoom in on here. So we're going to get this tulip with this brush. Just that one front section, I'm going to put some water down. This has a little tint to it already, but we're just going to fill in that oblong area with water. Mine's a little tinted pink, but that's okay. And then we're going to take the pink that we mixed up, which is right here, right? Make it a little more yellow, a little less water too. And we're going to just touch the sides of this. And it should bleed nicely. Now, if I have too much paint, it's going to bleed a lot. If I have little, it's going to bleed a little. I'm going to tap a little bit more over here. Because you notice that some of the tulips have like this, it's pale in the middle and has the lines in the ends to make it look a little more realistic. And that's how you do it. This paper is really great to bleed anything in. You might want to grab a little, I have, you mix up a green. You can mix some peacock blue with some yellow, make a nice pretty bright green. Or you have a green. I like to use my olive green gouache from Holbein, but I also have olive green watercolor. It's a little different tint, and that's not the color I'm going for. I want this really vibrant medium green. Might add a little of this blue. And that's the green I'm going for. Like I said, you always kind of look at your little scrap and you go, that's the color I want. A little more on the bluish green side. So I have that green. I'm going to just water it down a little bit on my brush. If this is still wet, it's a little damp, you can try and flood in a little bit of this green on the bottom. If it doesn't work, you can just kind of push that paint around. I might go back in and clean up my brush and just go right back over this whole thing again, and then just put in some of that green right on the bottom. Just tapping it, just like that. I think it's pretty simple. Now, this was kind of all white in here, and you can leave it that way. We can go in and add later on when it's dried some lines to show you to get a little more realistic. So I'm picking up that pink again that I put on the outside, and now I'm just going to fill in the side petals. And some of these are going to get darker than the other ones. me put this one on the back. Well, this one's still damp in the back. I'll go in and I'll add some concentrated color again. So I've got that rose and magenta. I'm going to add that little bit of yellow. And I'm just going to tap with my brush on the tip, just on the inside part. There you go again. Where it touches this thing, this part. And same goes true on the side here and here. Now, this one kind of dried up here, so I'm going to just go back in with some water and push that paint around. And then we have to wait till that dries to go the inner two petals that you see in here. And that's kind of more of a realistic approach. We can go in and take the same paint, wet on dry, and do a different approach on this one. I'm going to just paint that pink color, go down. Just fill in that section that we have drawn out. And fill in the section here that we drawn out. And when that dries, we go back in and add some color. We want to paint this part in here, but we can't touch that because it will bleed to that one. And we could do the really back part. And I'm just going to test and see if they're still wet. They're still wet. Again, with this front one, I'm going to zoom back out. With this front one, I'm going to clean off my brush. I'm going to just fill it in with water. Not too much. You want enough that gets a little sheen. It fills the area, but you don't want a lot. So again, I'm going to grab a little bit of this cadmium yellow that I have. Put a little in here in the middle. Just going to tap it in there with my little brush. And then grab that green that we were working with earlier. Kind of put it in the bottom. Right. And then we're going to clean that off, and we're going to grab our pinks that we had mixed up. Let's see, I'm trying to mix up more paint fast. And I'm just going to take the tip of my brush and just up. It's a lot. If it's too much paint, it's going to bleed a lot. Just a little bit, and we're just going to go around the edge of that section. And that should bleed right into that tulip. So it's like a couple different tones. And you can go back in and add some more. See, I'm going grabbing some more pink. A little more concentrated. A little darker. And it's a little too red. I want it more pink, not red. There's some yellow in there. And I'm just going to tap some of that in on the sides. Just like that. See, you have that nice blending and the colors are still there. Okay, this one's dry. You can take this color we just mixed, because that's kind of dark, and go right in here. See, I'm mixing up the color again. The less water you use, the more concentrated it's going to get. I just fill in this section that we had drawn in here. And then we have more realistic type of tulip. Right? At this point, you can go back in here and add, just take your brush, go on the end of this, kind of push up some of that paint. Just like that. Wait till that dries a little bit, but you could go in and add some little streaky lines. I'm going to show you that real simply. I'm just going to water it down just a little bit and put these lines kind of going like this. They look a little too thick, so I'm going to have to take off some paint on my brush. I want some skinny ones. Just like that. Right? And I could water down the brush and add a little pink paint right in the middle. See that? I'm going to clean up my brush again. I'm just going to soften the edges of the middle part. And then you go in and just take a little brush and just tap in some color again. Right in the middle. A little more. And then you'll have more of a realistic looking tulip, right? Doesn't that look pretty? And that's kind of how you do it. It wasn't that hard. You're just going to fill in the section with water. You're going to just hit the edges with that pink, a little bit of green, let it dry, paint the sides, paint this other sections that we drew in dark, and then you're going to add a little bit of dark color on the outside. And you can go in and grab some medium pink, put some streaks like we did here on the sides and then back here too. Again, for this one, that's we did it earlier. We're going to fill in the middle with some pink, a little bit darker than that one. And we'll let that dry. You can, at this point, while it's still wet, you can go in and flood in some of that darker tone again, which means basically less water, more paint. And I'm just going to tap the bottom here and on the sides. And that should bleed in nicely. This is why I use this paper, because it has a great, it's great for wet and wet. While that's drying, you can take that same medium pink and you can start to go in here. I'm just going to my brush a little bit and add some of these streaks, kind of like we did here, from the bottom going upward. It's this movement like this. See? And a little bit kind of down here. And then the back petals, you want them darker again. You can just do that wiggle movement with your brush. So kind of building, grabbing some darker paint again. Put those streaks. Get a little bit darker. Just like that. See, a different way. And we're going to get it even darker still, just like we did with this color. So I grabbed those two colors. I mixed the magenta and the rose, a little bit of the yellow. Very minimal paint. The color is going to be really intense. So you can go back in here and just fill in that color. And a little bit on the edges here. Just like that. On the bottom. A little bit on the top. And you have that tulip. Just another way of making the tulip. You could also go in and fill a little bit more if you didn't like that streaky kind of look. See, fix that. So this tulip was kind of similar to this one. Let me just go back in real quickly and put in some of the medium pink on the sides. If you want to leave some white, you can. So I'm just going to, on the side, I'm going to leave a little bit of white showing through here. And then just do that wiggle part in the back. Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle with my brush. Get some of that dark concentrated. And here again, we could do the same lines we did with this one. And a little darker on the sides. And you kind of go back in again and a little dark in the back. Let me get that other rose. Tulip. All right, so we're going to go on to the, I'm not going to do all of this, I'm going to show you a little bit. The green stem. So we mixed up that, for me, I liked, you make this nice medium green. You could use, like I said, peacock blue with yellow, make that green, or I'm just using this Holbein olive green gouache that I love, and I mix a little peacock with that. I want like a nice medium bluish green, kind of bright. I'm just going to fill in the stems. Just like that. It's a really bright, vibrant, pretty green. And that green goes right up into those stems. I mean, right up into the tulip. Pretty simple like that. I can do the ones over here. Just fill that color in. And then we're going to fill in the leaves, the big leaves. And this way we can add in some darker tones too. I would say it's just over here you mix up a darker green. So I'll take that peacock blue. I have some Prussian blue over here, and grab that green. So you can make a darker green, maybe add a little brown to that. I have some Van Dyke brown. My palette is full of all kinds of bits of colors. So you want to get a darker value of this. You can either just make this lighter, or you can make a color that's similar to it but darker. So I'm taking this light green, and I'm just going to put in that, fill in this leaf that we have here. While it's still damp, you can go in and grab some of your darker color. I do need to add some more brown. So you can bleed in from the bottom, a little bit on the side like that. Maybe in the middle too. Put a little streak right there. While this green is drying, you can go in here and add a little dark green where it meets the tulip, kind of on the side, just on the side on the left. Same thing this one on top, and just put a little bit of that dark color right on the edge on the side, because the sun is coming from this way with the shadow. It might be best if you want to do the leaf, do a bigger brush with a point on it. I can use the Princeton 12. It's got a huge belly. You can go grab this green color. It's got a good enough tip that I can create the leaf pretty easily. So, but it's big, so I can just push the brush down and pull that brush back up and create that leaf and fill in that color as one solid color, much easier than if you use a small skinny brush. It kind of has more advantage that way. Add a little more blue. So that's really damp. And I'll go in and fill in these ones in. See how much easier it is to flood in the color with a bigger brush. If you have a smaller brush, you're not going to be able to get that solid color in there. Again, I'm going to grab a little more blue. And then I can fill in this one in the background, just like that. So you're going to fill in all your leaves. I'm going to do this one up front. Just like so. I'm going to do this one in the background after I fill these ones in because they need to dry. And I'm going to finish these tulips over here, kind of how I did this, and we're going to go back in and do the details. Okay, so once those tulips are all done, I'm going to go in and put another leaf in the background here. As you can see, it's going to be much darker than the one in the foreground. So I am using my Princeton number 8. So I can be careful to paint around it. Get a little darker in between here. These are the minor details you're going to do at the end. You're going to just fill in this darker leaf here. And we're going to take that dark green again. Wash it down a little bit. On this section here where the leaf meets each other, I'm going to put the dark color here. Kind of wash it in. So what I do is I put the color down, then I go back and grab some water and take off a lot of it. And then we're going to just do this movement like this. See? So you get those streak lines. Go back in here, add a dark color. Again, streak lines. Go back in here. You can go from the bottom up or vice versa. And the curve here, you're going to bend and do the same thing. And then again, the back. See, I'm just doing this movement. And the color isn't so dark on these leaves that I'm working on right now. And you can build up to getting a little bit darker. You don't want it too dark. They're supposed to be vibrant colors. This one's still wet, so I'm going in here, filling this one in. Somehow the color just dried really kind of ugly. Just want to go in and add some more vibrant color to it. The less water, the darker the color is going to be. See, I'm grabbing my concentrated color, and you can see how much darker it is. And again here, you're going to just do this darker color towards the, where the tulip meets, and then where it's behind that leaf, and then this leaf. Kind of do those streaks again. Again, a little darker here. And when this one, the stem comes and meets the two leaves. And that's that. And you can just tweak it any way you want, but that's pretty much how I would do my tulips. And they look a little more realistic than just being, you know, kind of goofy, simple tulips. There are many other ways to make, going in and add some darker color here. Right back here. I want this to stand out a little more. See, much darker. And it's just adding less water, more paint, more of that green, more of the blue. I want that one in the front stand out. Get a little bit darker again right here, underneath where it meets the tulip. Because don't forget, it's going to dry pretty light. Just like that. Alright, so let me show you something on this scrap. So here's that big old brush I had. Big old brush. This is a number 12 Neptune series. Just grab some paint. If you're really not into this, it's too, you feel it's still too hard, you're going to use a brush like this to your advantage. Got some paint on here real loose, like you see here. Just like curve that. See that? The point, and curve it. Curve it. Leave a little space. Simple tulip. Right? You can go back in and add some touch of darker color here and let it bleed a little bit. I'm holding it in my hand so it's not bleeding properly. You can put some on the tip here. And then kind of push the paint around. But that's just a really simple, again, you can just grab the green and then put the, again, the leaf, you know, see how simple that leaf is? This technique is very easy. That green is kind of ugly. I'm just going to push that around. But you see, I have this big floppy brush and I made a simple tulip. You can go in again later as it's drying and do some of those streaks. Play around with it, and then some dark right on the tip. And we'll give it a nice variety. Don't make things really hard on yourself, you know, if you're having difficulty with that. But really, like I said, it's just this oblong shape. You're going to fill it in with water or a light colored pink. And you're going to take a dark color pink and just going to tap the edges and let it bleed into the center. And then here. And I'm just going to take, when it's dry, little spikes going in like that. And then you're just going to paint darker little shades on the outside. I know I'm making a mess now, but see? But this one is really simple. So there you go. Tulips. Tiptoe through the tulips. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Like I said, if you want to get really intense and serious, you can take the number 4 brush, Princeton, and you can go in and grab the darker green paint, less water, and really go in and add those really nice pretty streaks that you see on the leaves, you know, and some darker color back here, just on the side. This is where you use these small brushes for detail. See, I'll go back and tweak it maybe and add some darker tones. Get the detail. But you don't fuss about it too much. I say the looser the better, but that's just my preference. And maybe you don't feel like doing it that way. See, I'm getting a little darker. But that's it. So I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and don't forget, if you're a Patreon member, you can download the this traceable and the special bonus traceable that goes with this. And let me see what you come up with. You can always tag me on Instagram. I have a Facebook design page, not my personal one. And some people go in there and try and find me. I'm like, no, I have a personal one. That's my name. And I have another one that's my name with, I think it's Crimi-Trent design, something like that. I'm sorry, can't remember. And you can post the photos there. That's a public page. So thanks guys so much. Thanks for stopping by, and take care, and I'll speak to you soon.